music mindset on the airways tonight. Dropping wisdom heavy, groove feeling right. It's the music mindset, vibe that feels so right.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for checking it out. Hi to the members and hello to the subscribers and all that, and the people that keep watching videos. I appreciate you guys. Hey, we're going to get into what I call pretty funk. You know what I mean? You know what funk is and stuff like that. But this type of funk, like that Earth, Wind & Fire type of funk, that's not the real deep down dirty funk. It's pretty funk to me, but it's still funky. And I'm going to be talking about a band called Con Funk Shun. They do that real street pretty funk, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, bruh. Conjunction Junction, what's your function? I watched that as a kid.
Conjunction Junction, what's your function? No, man. We're talking about Con Funk Shun, Michael Cooper, and Felton Pilot and those guys. You know what I'm talking about?
Well, all I remember is how to put sentences together.
You don't know what I'm talking about. Don't worry about it, man. We're going to get into it. Yeah, we're going to get into that. So hang around to the end, and I'm going to give you a couple of updates on some things that I found out. So I'll see you at the bottom. Yeah, Con Funk Shun. Brothers and sisters, to get into the facts on this one, you have to look at a group that defined what it meant to be a self-contained unit during the golden era of the funk R&B groove. The story starts in Vallejo, California, back in 1969. This is the same ground where Sly Stone walked and honed his skills, so you already know the water was seasoned with funk and the air was full of that high-level musical energy from the jump. Michael Cooper and Louis McCall, who everyone called Tony, were high school classmates at Vallejo High School when they started a band named Project Soul. They were basically kids in their late teens with a mindset for discipline, and because they were just starting out, they had to practice and sharpen their skills in dusty residential garages. They spent their early years grinding through local talent shows and winning school dances just to fund their first sets of custom amplifiers. By 1971, the duo expanded the lineup to include Cedric Martin on bass, Danny Sweetman Thomas on keyboards, Carl Fuller on trumpet, and Paul Macho Harrell on the sax and woodwinds. The final piece of the puzzle arrived later that year when they brought in Felton Pilot Jr. He came from another local rival band called the New Directions right after they had just broken up. Michael Cooper used to call Felton the resident genius because he brought the vocals, was a multi-instrumentalist, knew theory, was savvy, and even came with the technical gear like the multi-Moog synthesizer. All this was about to help the group create a hipper and more correct industry-sounding funk. They didn't just fantasize with the idea of being a successful band. They went into the studio in early 1972 and put their vision on wax. They released a private press single called Ebony in early 1972. Holding that record in their hands changed the game, giving them a professional swagger and helping them become a major draw across parts of California. From March through July of 1972, they were building their reputation locally, playing talent shows, school dances, and the occasional high-stakes gig at nearby military bases. During this same period, their precision and versatility made them the go-to backing unit for other local acts, creating a strong buzz around their sound. By late summer of 1972, that demand reached a tipping point. They were invited to move over 2,000 miles to Memphis, Tennessee to back up and tour with the Soul Children for Stax Records. This was a massive step because these young men were leaving home to join a label that was already facing financial trouble. Upon arriving, the band stayed in a house owned by the family of Estelle Axton, the co-founder of Stax. That house quickly became a laboratory where they squeezed their gear into the living room, blending their tight West Coast harmonies with the raw grit of Southern soul. But just a couple of weeks after settling into that Memphis heat, they got the call to head back to California for the legendary Watt Stax Festival. Since the Soul Children were booked for the show, the band had to be there to do their job. And Rufus Thomas also realized Project Soul was sharp enough to handle the king of the label too. He was also booked for the event. Rufus was the elder statesman who had the very first hits at Stax, and him and the label knew they could trust this new unit to hold down the foundation for one of the biggest stars during this historic event. On the day of the show, they played on a massive wooden stage built directly in the center of the field on the 50-yard line of the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum. In that moment, all were playing for over 100,000 people from the very heart of that historic bowl. If you watch the footage of Rufus Thomas during the Funky Chicken in his hot pink outfit, the guys from Project Soul were holding down that gritty groove behind him, looking out at that sea of black pride surrounding them from all sides, and feeling like they had finally arrived. But when returning to Memphis after performing at Watt Stax, reality hit hard. Stax Records was spiraling toward a financial collapse that would end in involuntary bankruptcy by '75. Project Soul found themselves stranded. No major label deal, no paychecks, and no way home. From late 1972 through 1975, they survived by becoming like the ghost studio band for Stax songwriters who were themselves trying to escape the collapsing label, recording demos and absorbing the Memphis sound. During this time, they found a temporary refuge at Audio Dimensions, a studio owned by producer Ted Sturgis. Estelle Axton was also trying to launch her new label, Fret One Records, there, and the band worked closely with her vision. Project Soul had to eventually move out of the Axton house and move into a cramped apartment, continuing to record and hone their sound under Sturgis' guidance for the next couple of years. But a secret trap was being set. Sturgis had offered them studio time that the band believed was on the house, a chance to build sweat equity. Instead, Sturgis was quietly keeping a ledger of every hour spent behind the glass. Once the recordings were finished, he dropped a bill on the band for $10,000 in studio time. With no money to pay, Sturgis used that debt as leverage, forcing them to sign an exclusive production contract that essentially made them his property. Under this pressure, the name had to go. Sturgis told them Project Soul sounded like a relic of the '60s and confined them. They struggled to figure it out, but then snatched the name from an instrumental track called Con Funk Shun by the Nightlighters, the legendary backing band for the group New Birth. So, they recorded their debut album, Organized Con Funk Shun, which captured the raw and hard-driving funk from their club days. That music caught the attention of Mercury Records, who were ready to sign them, but there was a catch. Mercury wouldn't move forward as long as the band was shackled to Sturgis. And it would take a high-stakes legal fight with the help of a lawyer to break that predatory deal before they could finally walk away from Memphis and officially sign with Mercury in 1976. And when they did, just a year later, the world got hit with an absolute banger on the Secrets album. That song was called Ffun, and Michael Cooper wrote it in an Atlanta hotel room. The groove sounds like Brick's song Daz because Cooper literally told Brick he was going to emulate the feel to get a hit like they had. Michael used a double F in the title to mimic Brick's naming style. It shot to #1 on the R&B charts, and even hit number 23 on the pop charts in early 1978. The band followed that success with a string of gold records, including Love Shine, Candy, and Spirit of Love. But in 1979, they released the monster track, Chase Me. That jam rocketed to #4 on the R&B charts. It had that thumping electric bass line and clavinet sounds that captured the energy of the disco era without losing its funk credentials. By 1980, they were leaning into a sophisticated sound that actually preceded and influenced Earth, Wind & Fire's later hit, Let's Groove. That was Too Tight, a horn-laden jam that reached #8 on the R&B charts and cracked the pop top 40. It featured the sophisticated harmonies that reminded everyone of the Phoenix Horns, a sound they shared through a common producer, Skip Scarborough. This era proved they were the new standard, leading to 4 years straight of every album they dropped going gold. But as the early 80s arrived, the real heart and drama of the band began to unfold.
Lo and behold, but during that time frame, he had started talking to, I should say, a beautiful young lady that later on became my young lady.
Michael Cooper and Felton Pilot found themselves in a real-life love triangle. They were both in love with the same woman, a chick named Gina, and they did not even realize they were sharing the same heartache until the truth finally came out. When Cooper buzzed her apartment only to find Pilot was already there, that's a bummer. Pilot later handed Cooper a song track to write lyrics for, and Cooper took advantage by writing about the love triangle situation.
It's just that someone's over.
Pilot was pissed and wanted the track back, but the band voted to keep it. So, instead of letting that pain tear the band apart, they channeled all that longing and hurt into a song that has become a legend of the Quiet Storm. That is Love's Train from the album called To the Max, released in 1982. And that is Michael Cooper crooning and pleading his case like a Mickey Flicky. The crazy thing is, it only hit number 47 on the charts back in 1983. because the label did not believe in it to push it, but the streets knew better. The Quiet Storm radio DJs in Washington, D.C. and Baltimore were the ones who truly broke the record, turning a song that was only on the album and wasn't even a lead single into one of the most beloved tracks in the Stax and Mercury catalog. It was introduced to a new generation when Dru Hill covered it in 1996, and it reached the top of the charts all over again when Silk Sonic released their version in 2022. It is a rare example of a song that doesn't need a crowd of covers to prove its worth, just the right ones at the right time. Hey, let me hit you with a few other hot ones from Con Funk Shun before we see the rest of the story. And Ffun Pilot's falsetto? It's straight from the heart. Make it last. Bruh, this is the Baby Maker, my favorite of all the Con Funk Shun songs. Those were some of the tunes that set it off for Con Funk Shun. But unfortunately, this success led to internal tension by 1985. A logical dispute arose over songwriting royalties and publishing credits. Michael and Ffun were doing the heavy lifting in the studio, while other members felt they deserved a bigger piece of the pie. They felt the original brotherhood was being traded for a two-man show, and the resentment turned into a full-blown mutiny. The pressure finally exploded during a high-stakes rehearsal in 1986. In a move that signaled the total collapse of their unity, the group's founder and drummer, Louis A. McCall Sr., reached his breaking point and slapped Ffun Pilot across the face. It wasn't just a heated moment. It was a coordinated strike that the other band members reportedly co-signed, viewing it as a necessary response to what they felt was Ffun betrayal of the group's collective interests. For Ffun, that was the final straw. That slap was the final note for the classic lineup. Ffun walked away and found the opportunity to become a multi-platinum producer for MC Hammer, where he used his funk expertise to co-produce the diamond-selling Please Hammer Don't Hurt Him album. Michael Cooper headed for a successful solo career, and with Ffun gone, the group was forced to record their final album without him, a move that effectively ended the classic run for the original band. But the whole Con Funk Shun story took a tragic turn in 1997. Louis McCall, the man who had been the band's leader and drummer from the very beginning, was lost to a violent home invasion robbery in his home in Stone Mountain, Georgia. He was only 45 years old, and it was a tragedy that the family still feels in their souls today. It was a cold case for 11 years, before an arrest was finally made in 2008. Today, the legacy of Con Funk Shun is as tight as it ever was. Michael Cooper and Ffun Pilot reconciled years ago and are back on the road performing for fans who still want to feel that authentic heat. Their music has become a goldmine for hip-hop sampling, and they prove that if you stay the course and keep your mindset right, you can survive the shifts in the industry. Yeah, that's the incredible story of Con Funk Shun. Man, what an incredible band from back in the day. I remember them, man, when I first heard them, I just going into high school, and I was like, man, these guys are incredible. They had an Earth, Wind & Fire mixed with a Kool in the Gang kind of funk to me, you know what I mean? But let me update you real quick. Hang on one second then. First of all, I want to let you know those charges, man, with McCall. It took a long time for them to arrest somebody, but from what I know, they never did charges. They charged the guy and then they dropped the charges. Some legal mumbo jumbo happened. So nobody really ever paid. The man never got the justice that he deserved. And also one thing that I thought was interesting about Pilot, he said that he's only made money since 1972 doing music. That's incredible, what I think. And also the big thing is my man, Michael Cooper, something that most of you might not know about this guy. You know him as a guy on a guitar and in a band, but did you know that he was actually a sheriff officer? And from what I know, like a combined 20-something years of doing it too. At that time when they were about to get dropped from a record company or something like that, he had to protect himself when he was going to go solo. So he took a job at the sheriff department and make sure he had that income coming in, you know what I mean? But that's some interesting stuff, man. I tell you what, Con Funk Shun, I love those guys and all the stuff they do. Pick up an album or look up some of their videos on YouTube, man. That's some good listening stuff. And I hope you guys appreciate this on the Music Mindset channel, and I'm gonna check you guys out later. Make sure you do what you're supposed to do, subscribe, like, and all that different stuff. Support the channel any way you can, and I'll see you guys next time.